propeller shaft from the gearbox takes the power through a differential to the drive shafts for the rear wheels. A steel or plastic fuel tank is fitted under the rear seats. The driver sits upright and to one side. And to make driving easier, any amount of technology can be added to the basic package. At one time, road cars benefited from racing. Tyres, brakes, steering, engines, all were refined on the track. With the arrival of computers, an invisible revolution has overtaken the building and driving of cars. Super saloons like this have traction control, stability control, anti-lock brakes, active suspension, electronic gear selection, and even a memory of who is driving it. But most of this did not come from Formula One.
Nobody in Formula One has said with a straight face for some years that motorsport improves the breed of road cars.
Most of what is on a Formula One car is of no interest for road cars, but is of great interest to engineers. Frank Durney is an engineer, an aerodynamicist. By blowing over the top surface of a sheet of paper, he is demonstrating a scientific fact. When air speeds up over a surface, its pressure drops. The paper is sucked up into the air. An aeroplane wing uses this principle to get lift and to fly. This was the secret that engineers at Lotus had stumbled on. Hidden under the black bodywork of the car was a primitive upside-down wing shape. Rubber skirts running close to the road were the only clue to the physics going on behind them. As the car raced forward, stationary air was forced under the car and accelerated by the wing shape. As the air speeded up, the pressure dropped, sticking the car to the road. The skirts were an attempt to seal the low pressure from the outside air.
Lotus produced a car which is just beating all of us. And obviously it had got some particular technical feature that really was a big step forward, and we didn't really know what it was. And Lotus were very good at putting out smoke screens. The big one was they'd invented a fantastic new differential, and every time the car was worked on, they would put a cover over the gearbox, and somebody would go scuttling into the truck with a piece of cloth covering some device, and so everyone's eye was taken off the ball, because what they'd actually done was discovered a way of getting about 3 times more downforce without any more drag, which gave them the grip. And frankly, the differential couldn't, even if it was perfect, have made as much difference as we were being hoodwinked into trying to believe. In the end, it became perfectly clear by making a wind tunnel model that ground effect was just a huge step forward.
Frank Durney helped perfect what Lotus had discovered. The 1979 FW07 had a better wing shape. But Durney also realized that the air constantly leaking into the underside and destroying the suction could be cured by having a sliding skirt. The skirt on the Williams wasn't flexible. It was stiff and moved up and down in a slot in the side pod, sealing the car to the road at all times. The performance advantage was a revelation. Skirts were banned in 1981. From then on, any aerodynamic advantages had to be hunted down on every square centimetre on the car's surface.
Well, the first thing that hits the air is the front wing, and the front wing is simply an upside-down aeroplane wing. These big end plates on here are to reduce the fact that the low pressure underneath the car will be sucking air in, and the less air you suck in, the more downforce you retain. These bits here are for picking up air to cool the brakes. If you don't keep the brakes cool, the car reliability is destroyed, and it's very important. But unfortunately, it's very easy for the flow around these to flow inwards and disturb the side pod flow or the rear wing flow. And it's surprising how important the brake duct shape is. The engine has to be fed with air. This is a turbocharged car, so it's got cooling air and air to keep the compressed turbocharged air cool. And there's a minimum amount of air that needs to go through there. Every extra bit of air that you let go through there produces extra drag and takes momentum out of the airstream, which means that it isn't there to produce extra downforce. So as an aerodynamicist, you run the engine as hot as the engine manufacturers will let you, because that'll give you the best aerodynamic performance. Round here, you have the problem of letting all the hot air out from the engine, from the radiators, and still maintaining good downforce from the wing. And so everything ahead of this rear is all orientated about not upsetting the flow here.
The problem with getting downforce from wings on top of the car is drag. Drag is turbulent air sucked along behind the car. Air has weight, and because the drag is reluctant to let go, it can be like towing a caravan at 250 kilometers an hour.
If the downforce is generated from the wing at the back of the car, then with it brings extra drag, and then depending on the speed of the car, that requires additional horsepower to overcome that extra drag. So if you have a horsepower advantage, you can use some of it to run a bit more aerodynamic downforce on the car and inevitably a bit more drag, while still maintaining just enough to make sure that you're a few kilometres an hour quicker than your opposition. So having a more powerful engine is definitely an advantage.
During the 1980s, Formula One cars had engines half the size of today's cars. But they were turbocharged. Turbos produced huge amounts of power. Wings or no wings, they were much too fast. They were banned. Turbos had used complex electronic engine management computers to keep the engines from exploding. With the turbos gone, engineers would find other things to do with the computers. The focus could now move back to the secret underside of the car. By 1992, Formula One engineers had realized that computers could revolutionize the car's handling. Better still, there were no rules governing their use. Digital electronic computers can process enormous amounts of information at very high speeds. They are perfect for stabilizing unstable machines. The Eurofighter is an unstable machine, a plane designed in the Cold War era for combat. It is built around 3 supercomputers. The pilot flies the computers, and the computers fly the plane.
Computers were not there. The pilot could not fly this airplane. There is no manual backup. So if you like, we are reliant upon the computers, but happy to be so because of the benefits they give us.
The benefits are that the pilot doesn't have to worry about making turns or loops that would crash the plane or tear it apart. The computer constantly assesses what the pilot has done, processes information about the attitude of the plane, and keeps things stable, while he does the fighting. The FW-15 did a similar thing. It didn't have springs and dampers. Instead, hydraulic actuators controlled by an onboard computer absorbed the bumps and rolls of the fast-moving car. The computer processed information about what the driver was doing and the car's attitude to the road thousands of times a second. This was fed to the actuators that held the car exactly 6 centimeters above the track at all times.
The whole idea was to keep the car as its optimal